All right, so let's take a look. Our unit two, we're gonna be looking at data, right? So we talked about last week what's a parameter, what's a population, what's a sample. We talk about the important parts of a study. Now we're gonna talk about how we can collect our data. Remember, data is basically responses we expect. Right? We last unit in unit one, we talk about some experiments and the data was the responses we expected. Now we're going to talk about how to collect such data. On our notes, just like I did in unit one, I'm going to talk about each of these words. In your notes, I left you some spaces. I'm not going to write anything. Instead, I'm just going to talk about it. You guys listen to what I say and then write the notes that you guys feel you guys need to write. Okay, so it is up to you what you write. So now observational study. Okay, so kind of like it says, observational. So we see things. Now statisticians, people that do run stats, they're hired for many experiments, and some of them are observational study. In this case, the researcher, the statistician, only observes what has happened, and based on that, we predict what's going to happen. Let's say a store, a store, a chain calls me up and says, I want to see, can you tell me how my sales are going to be? So I go and see, okay, well, no, in January, how many people came over to buy products here? What were the sales in January? What were the sales in February? What were the sales in March? So I'm looking at what happened. So I'm like, all right, well, this coming January, I'm going to expect this to happen. So I'm just observing. I'm just checking things that have happened in the past. And based on that, I'm going to try to draw a conclusion just based on these observations. So again, I'm just seeing what happened before, and based on that, I'm going to assume what will happen in the future. Another case for data collection is an experiment. Now, you guys have heard the word experiment in your science classes. Right? You guys come over and try things out. Oh, what's inside a frog? Well, let's cut it out. Let's open it up and let's see what's inside the frog. Right? Those are experiments you guys do in your science classes, biology, for example. Now, for statistics, we try things out. An experiment is when we try something and see what happens. All right, so we're thinking of a medicine that it's coming out. Pharmaceutical companies hire statisticians, so they're like, let's try this thing out and let's give it to people. See what happens. The researchers, we said we manipulate one variable. We talk about last unit, a variable, something that can be changed. As a statistician, I'm going to run a study. There's something that I can change. So I'm going to manipulate my variable and see what happens. What influences other variables. Now, on these two variables, that one that I can manipulate, remember the one I can change, that one we're going to call the an independent variable, because I can choose whether I change it or not. Now, what I get out of my change, we're going to call that dependent variable. Okay, so let me go back again. What I can manipulate, what I can change, we're going to call that the independent. And then the result, we're going to call it dependent variable. Some people even call it the outcome variable. What comes out of my experiment. Now, some experiments we cannot do. Either I could risk the life of people, or an experiment could be very, very costly. Now, let's say a casino in Vegas comes and hires me, and they're like, "Oh, we want to see, can you run some studies here?" But we're not going to build a whole casino, spend so much money, and then be like, "Oh, that did not work." Or I cannot go to Six Flags. They hire me, and I'm like, "Oh, let's do. What about this roller coaster?" And then people die. Right? Certain things I cannot do, so we're gonna call those simulations. So matter of fact, oil companies have those. They go over it, and when they build things, they cost them thousands or probably millions of dollars to build certain things. So they have their engineers trying things out. So we call those simulations. Those are actually computer experiments. I try things on the computer, and this involves creating data for my sampling. Now, For example, let's say I'm going to ask you guys, can you flip a coin 100 times? Yeah, you can flip a coin and record how many heads, how many tails you get. Now, 100 times, pretty sure you guys have me like, that's too long. What if I ask you to flip a coin for 1,000 times? Right. For that case, I will just tell the computer, okay, you can flip a coin. I either get heads or tails, do it 1,000 times, tell me how many heads, how many tails you get, and then the computer will quickly tell me. I can do something like that within a minute instead of, spending who knows how long of a time and how much energy. So simulation is something that we do it through the computer. Like we don't want to do it in person because we're risking the lives of people, or we might even be doing something very, very expensive. The one data collection that is used most commonly is called survey. Now, survey is a method of gathering information from a group or individuals by asking them simple questions or just asking questions. I could come over and I could ask you guys at the end of the semester, at the end of the school year, I could just give you guys a survey. With that one, reality, what I'm doing, I'm going to give you guys some questions and I want to see what you guys answer. Do you guys like Kern Learn? Yes or no. What do you think about my homework? Was it easy? Was it hard? And then you guys tell me what kind of suggestions do you give, will you give me for future classes? And then you guys will answer certain things, right? I'm asking specific questions. Sometimes I might give you a choice. Do you like Kern Learn? Yes or no? Like I'm giving you choices. Sometimes I don't. I leave it open questions because I might just ask for your opinion, but I'm still asking for certain questions, and then you guys will just give me the answers. That's what we call the survey. Now, this could be done using paper and pencil or online forms. I could even call people, right? When you guys get called, sometimes like, oh, we want to see what's your opinion on the future elections. Who are you going to vote? That's a telephone survey. And then sometimes it's just face to face. So surveys, when they ask you certain questions and they're just looking for your responses. Now for the homework, I'm going to give you guys some scenarios and you guys have to tell me whether this is observational study, experiment, simulation, or survey.